out there. Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about. Oh my God, this is the happy new school year and happy school year to everybody out there who is out there for the new school year. And right now, I've seen several things for the new school year that is not going well and that is not sitting by. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it because right here in South Florida, and I just recently seen a post from another city in another state, and thing. So we're gonna talk about it. And I want y'all to weigh in on your comments, what you feel about this, what you feel about what's going on and everything. So we're gonna talk about it. So here locally in the Miami-Dade County area, there is a school, Miami Carroll City Senior High School, that is banning, that has a code, that has a dress code restriction. And it's been all over social media. If you came from Miami, and if regardless if you went to Carroll City Senior High or if you didn't, because I have a couple of friends and I know people who did go to Carroll City Senior High, and even people who didn't go to Carroll City Senior High. There is a post going around stating that there is a dress code restriction. Now, I seen the video. If you haven't seen the video, I'm quite sure it's been going viral. If you're from other states, you probably haven't seen it. But if you're from Miami, it's going viral where the school principal was standing at the front. There is a balloon tunnel, like a big tunnel, blow up tunnel, and she was turning students away that had on hoodies. And if you had a hoodie on, if you didn't want to take the hoodie off and put it in your bag, you had to go to CSI, which we all know CSI is detention. And there was a lot of good comments. There was a lot of bad comments. There was a lot of positive energy. There was a lot of negative energy towards this. I weigh in my comments, and I'm going to share that with you in about in a second about it. And it got outraged. And in another scene, and what I was just saying in Kansas schools, and I'm guessing Kansas City or in Kansas schools, they have banned cell phones in the classrooms, and they're giving lockers to kids. They're having the kids put their cell phone in lockers to where the kids can't use their cell phones during school times. Now that is a good thing and bad thing, and it's more of a bad thing than it is a good thing. And I just saw one of the comments, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Now going back to the Carroll City incident, now I think that this is a good idea and a bad idea. In reality, it is a bad idea. Now, from my understanding, the parents got notified months ago before the school started to say, hey, this is the new dress code policy. Now I agree, I'm okay with the school uniforms because a lot of these kids, parents, they can't afford to buy their kids school clothes. So buying school uniforms and wearing them every day makes sense. Number one, it keeps the kid from being picked on because a lot of you remember back in the day when you used to wear those um off-brand shoes, which we used to call Bobos, and kids used to pick at them because you used to wear them Payless shoes to school. And then when your clothes look like hand-me-down clothes, or your clothes look like you bought them from the 99-cent store and things like that, kids used to get picked on because of their shoes and things like that. Now you have uniforms, so kids can't get picked on because you're wearing the same outfit that I'm wearing. We may have bought it from two different stores, but we're wearing the same outfit. So it's better because it stops kids from being picked on in school. And also, it saves parents money because the school clothes probably is cheaper than buying a lot of, you know, $50 t-shirts and jeans and stuff. You're probably paying $25 for a shirt, $25 for some pants. You get like two or three pair, and bam, you got your school clothes. You wear them every day. Now, what I don't like is the enforcement that they're giving, that they're doing for these kids. I like that the kids supposed to come dressed for success because they should be able to tell the kids, hey, when you come to high school, dress for success. Don't come to high school with your pants hanging off your behind. You walking around here, looking like you belong on a street corner. You wearing these, ghetto clothes and stuff. They want you to come to school because remember, high school is the last step before you become an adult. When you're in elementary school, you're a kid. You run around with your friends. You playing in the grass. They got a playground. You go play. Middle school, you're stepping into the teenage years. You're a preteen. You're stepping into the teenage years. to where you're trying to find yourself as a teenager, whatever. As a high schooler jumping into high school, you're a young adult, you're a teenager, and in the next 2 or 3 years or so, you're gonna be an adult. Regardless if you're going to college or not, you're going to be, independent as your own. So now they're preparing you to go to school. They're preparing you for success by making you dress for success. Now the dress code, I don't know what the full dress code is. I'm just gonna see if I can find it. The full dress code. But at the same time, I look at it as if, okay, understandable. Let's do a part. Hold on one second, y'all. Let's do a part with this because I like a lot of this stuff that's going down because I feel that our kids today do need structure. See, back then, our parents gave us structure, and we didn't play with our parents. Remember they say you can play until the street lights come on, then you had to be in the house before the street lights come on. You can only play to the end of the block. Our parents, we had structure. Now kids, they be, you can live in Miami Gardens. Your kid's somewhere in Coconut Grove somewhere. And you like, that's like 10 plus miles away. You can be, in Fort Lauderdale, your kids hanging out in Miami. Oh, I'm going to hang out with my kids in Miami. And they don't care because they like, as long as my kids out there doing. And I'm like, that's not what we is. We cared about our kids back in the day. And now a lot of these people, they don't really care about their kids, actually. You don't care about what your kids doing because you're like, okay, my kids are out doing what they do. But at the same time, I'm like, we need to have structure. And with this, I'm sorry, y'all, with this dress code enforcement, I agree that these kids are getting structure. The only thing about it is that the fact that the way they're going about it. I saw the video, and the video was going crazy when she said, "Oh, you gotta get over here. If you're not gonna take that off, you're gonna go." She was like a police officer of the school, and then she had somebody escort them to CSI, and they knew better. Now a lot of people was like the parents knew better and this and that or whatever. Yeah, if you got an email, if you got notifications from Dade County Public Schools or from this school, no, it's not Dade County Public Schools, it's just Carroll City Senior High. If you got notifications about this months in advance prior to your kids, you should have known better to say, hey, you can't go to school looking like that. They have rules and everything, so now you have to dress like something. So, change your outfit or whatever. They should have known. But like they said, I've seen comments, it starts at home, because your parents shouldn't allow your kids to go out looking like something. Yes, I agree that the school is preparing the kids for dress for success, but the way they went about it, because a lot of people was like, y'all can't, shame her, the principal, for doing what she was doing and things like that. And I'm like, it's not about shaming, it's about the way she enforced it. Like, I would have been like, hey, let's have let everybody, the first day, I would have gave everybody a pass, it's like you're turning students away from school. It's like you're sending them to jail because they dressed inappropriately. And I'm like, just because they had a hoodie on, you're dressing them, that you feel like that's inappropriate. My thing is with this, you don't punish kids for education. You punish kids for what they do wrong. They're stealing, they're robbing, they're bullying, they committed a crime. Yes, but you don't punish them. I come into school with a hoodie, but I can't get a higher education. College, they don't care what you wear in college. You could come to college, you could come to your class with pajamas on that you slept in last night. They don't care because college know that this is an adult life. You are an adult. These kids are young adults that are going to be full-grown adults in a couple of years. Even though you're preparing them for success, you can't put their success down by saying because you got on a hoodie, you can't come to class and learn biology. Because you got on this, you can't come. I understand there are certain standards. You have to have certain type of, clothes to wear. I understand that. Nobody wants you to come to school, because I seen one of the things where they say you can't have cut off jeans or jeans that got, holes in them like they have now. I understand that. You can't wear like tighted clothes or all that. You got to wear something look presentable, because when you're going in an interview, you're not going to go into an interview with cut up jeans and stuff like that. You're not going to go into an interview with stuff like that, so you got to come in there looking successful. In the same way with school, but at the same time, I wouldn't enforce it the way that these people are enforcing it, because they're enforcing it the wrong way, to where, hey, you can't wear that, get out of line, hey, you can't wear that, dude. That's like going in the food, going to get food stamps, or going to get government assistance, say, oh, you don't look right, so get out of line. Oh, you look like a crackhead, get out of line. Oh, you look disabled, get out of line. And I'm like, I don't understand the situation on why you gotta enforce something like that. Now, I agree that they should come together and say, hey, this is an understanding, Now, if you're gonna put these kids aside and then you're gonna talk to them and say, hey, your parents got an email or a notification or was informed months ago about the school policies on what to wear. The fact that you're coming to school wearing this is unacceptable. What we're trying to do is build a momentum. What we're trying to do is build our students for success. What we're trying to do is build a A+ school, because that's what she wants. She wants her school to become an A+ school. And I agree with that. But the way you're going about it, to me, kind of feels like it's not a good thing to do it. Now, yes, I know a lot of people that are here from Miami that's gonna have some negative reviews about how I feel, because I'm not saying that she's not wrong, because it's not wrong for having a school to a higher standard. It is wrong on how you're enforcing, the way you're enforcing it. To me, that's like a threat on clothes. Oh, you're gonna wear that? You're gonna get out of my school. Oh, you're gonna have that? Get out of my school. It's like you're threatening these kids with education. You can't come in my school unless you do. It's like you're threatening them. And for me, I've seen a lot of people weigh in on this, and a lot of people say you can't stop her from doing it. No, I'm not saying that she is a bad person for doing what she's doing, because I applaud to try to get these kids to dress accordingly at school. You know how many kids I see coming from school, they be on the bus, they be walking the streets, they pants hanging off they behind, they wearing $300 Jordans, some of these kids look like they going to the club, and I'm like, this is what we're doing for school, so I agree that they should have some type of dress code at these schools, regardless if it's uniform or non-uniform, She's not telling you to wear a uniform, she's just telling you need to come in here up, dressed appropriately, and I agree with that. But the only thing I don't agree is threatening and enforcing the rules. You can't, stop a person from. That's like going into a store and saying, "Oh, you're not gonna buy that chocolate milk because it's not good for you," but you're not this person's parent. You can't threaten this person to not drink chocolate milk because it's not good for you, or you're not this parent that's threatening to say you can't do this because it's not. No, but you can say, hey, this is our school. Yes, you have the right to say it's mandatory to wear appropriate clothes, and this is what you cannot wear, but you don't have the right to bullying them on what not to wear, because basically that's what's basically going down with it. You're basically telling these people, okay, let's weigh in on the comments here. Now, the Cal City Senior High School uniform is, they have pre-orders. They have uniforms that you can buy, and which is understandable. But with those uniforms, they're banning no hoodies. You can't wear certain things, and I've been seeing a lot of comments about it. And to me, I'm like, okay. One second, y'all. I'm because a lot of this stuff that I'm looking at, and I see this, And you know, for me, I feel as we can enforce rules, but the way you enforce it might be a little bit too much. You know, that's like going into the store. That's like how you go into a club. I done been down that road, and most of us as adults been down that road. When you go to a club and you say you can't come in here looking like that, you can't come in here looking like that. I went to a club on South Beach. This was years ago when I was younger, and I ended up going to a club, and you know I had on. I don't know if I had on shorts or jeans, and I had on like a blue jersey. You know, I was represent. I was. It was some, I think college team or something. I don't remember because I don't even have it no more. And I went into the club, and then the guy pulled me back and say, "Oh, the bouncer." Then bouncer came to me and say, "Come back to the club when you learn how to fucking dress for the club." And I was like, "That was rude." And I was like, "So the way you talked to me was disrespectful." Now back then I was young. If I had my own mindset that I knew now, I would have went to management and say, I understand you have a dress code, but at the same time, he shouldn't have talked to me the way he talked to me, you know, and stuff like that. Because even though a club have a dress code, there's a certain way of going about enforcing that dress code. And I feel that's what she was doing when she did that. She didn't say it the way she said it. Oh, you can't wear that. You come in here. If you're not gonna put that on, you got to go over here. Stand over here. Get over here. You can't go in there. Get over here. It's like she was being more of a police officer than it was with her being, you know, uh, um, a person of caring. And a lot of people are weighing in, yeah, this is what they needed and stuff like that. Yeah, they need some guidance, they need some structure, but the way you're going about it's wrong. Just like with the Kansas City. Kansas schools are locking their kids' phones up and putting them in lockers because they're not allowed to use them in school. Now, one of the comments I've seen is somebody said, so if they have a mass shooting, how can the kids contact their parents? This is what I'm talking about. So you're gonna lock it. Now I agree that kids shouldn't use their cell phones in school because it is a distraction. Because you don't know I'm at work and I always get notifications all the time, whether it's an email notification, a text message, a phone call, whatever. You're always gonna get some type of something that's gonna go off on your phone, whether it's a notification, a phone call, whatever. You know, and a lot of kids they get distracted by that. The teacher's writing stuff on the board, reading something out of the book, and all you see is a kid on TikTok looking at TikTok videos. Yes, it's a distraction, but at the same time, these kids have these phones for emergencies. A lot of parents now buy these kids cell phones because of emergency reasons. You've seen what happened in recent years. Remember the Parkland shooting on February 14th, about 6-7 years ago, when the guy went in and killed 17 people, including students and adults. You know, you seen how a lot of these students they just come into these schools and start shooting and killing people, and the kids are running scared. They need their cell phones. You know, a lot of these teachers, they don't have phones in their classroom to say, hey, there's a shooting and blah blah blah. They probably can't get to their cell phone because most teachers have their cell phones in their pocketbooks, or they have them somewhere where it's not visible. So these kids, they're able, hey, mom, I'm in the school, there's a shooter coming. But you're locking their phones up because you want them to have better education. Yes. My thing is, when you come in the classrooms, there should be a section in the classroom where the kids can put their phones at until the classroom is over, then take it out. Don't have it to where their kids lock up, because the way that I saw it, they're locking their kids up in lockers outside or outside the school, and then when you leave the school, you can get your phone. No, what if and not only of a shooting emergency, what if something happened that their parents get in a car accident and their parents crash? Let's say, for instance, most schools, like my school, started at 7:30. Let's say at 10 o'clock, you get a notification your mom was in a crash on her way to work. A drunk driver hit her and they rushed her to the hospital. And they trying to contact you, but you can't get in contact because your phone is locked up somewhere in a locker. And then you get a notification after school, your mom passed away because the drunk driver hit her at 10 o'clock. They rushed her to the hospital and she died at 11:30 in the hospital. You couldn't even get to your phone. Or not, or vice versa, where something happened to your kid. Let's say your mom is at work and she see there's a shooting at the Washington High School and such, and she's calling you, is my son okay? Is my daughter okay? And they don't get an answer. You know what they're going to think? I hope he didn't shoot my son. I hope the killer didn't shoot my son. Because when they don't hear from their kids, they're going to automatically think that their kid was one of the shooters and they can't respond. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to panic. So for me, I feel as if this is a thing where I don't believe that kids' phones should be locked up. I just believe that there should be a section in each classroom where they say, turn your phones off, put it in the little slot, and you can't get your phone until you leave the classroom. And then when you go to your next class, the same thing. Put your phone here, have it on mute or anything, and then when you get out of class, all kids, when you walk in the door, turn your phone on mute. Silence your phone. And every classroom is going to have a cell phone holder. You put your cell phone here, you put your cell phone there. When you leave, you take your cell phone, you check your messages between classes. If your mom called you, you answer the phone. When you get into your next class, put it in the cell phone slot, leave it there till it's time to go and take it out. And then the cell phone thing is being watched. And then not only that, who's to say that somebody that works at the school is not going to be stanky and skanky enough to go in and steal somebody's cell phone? You got the latest iPhone, and one of the faculty will say, "Ooh, I'm finna take this iPhone," and then the kid come back and say, "My cell phone is missing," and then the school gonna be like, "We ain't got nothing to do with it." So it's a lot of things wrong with that, and I feel like you shouldn't lock up kids' cell phone in schools. I think there should be a section in each class that the kids should silence their phone, put their phones in there, because if anything happened to these kids, the parents are going to be outraged and go crazy. Because I'm quite sure on that viral video and in that policy, a lot of parents are being outraged because they won't be able to get in contact with their kids. You know, something may happen to the parent after they leave dropping off the kids. The parent, you know, I've seen a lot of accidents going on, you know, traffic during rush hours and stuff. There's accidents, people getting killed, people getting ran over by cars. You know, people, you could be walking outside your car and going to work and somebody can run you over and you could get killed instantly, but the kid doesn't know because they in school and they won't get a notification till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon where your mom died in the hospital. She was walking to work and somebody struck her and killed her. Just like, you know, recently there was a lady who worked at a Walmart in Miami Gardens, and she was walking to work, and the dogs attacked her and killed her. Now, granted, all of her kids was grown, but what if something would have happened and they couldn't get towards her kids, you know, in time enough? And I was like, this don't make no sense. Or vice versa, one of her kids is in school and something happened and she can't get in contact with their kids because their phones are locked up in the cell phone locker, and she thinking, my kid's not picking up. My kid is never picking up. I gotta call somebody. I don't know. My kid could be dead. So these are the things that we have to worry about when it comes to stuff like that. But a lot of these public school systems doesn't understand that there are levels to this. If you're going to silence kids' phones, if you're going to stop kids from having their phones in the school, the best thing is to do is say, before you walk in, have somebody at the front door or at the front entrance of the school say, silence your phone. And then when you get into the rooms, tell all the kids, if you have a cell phone, it must go in the cell phone holder. If you can't put it in the cell phone holder, we will escort you to detention and you will get detention because there are no cell phones in the cell. I would not lock their phones up because most kids nowadays have phones for emergency purposes, you know. This is how kids keep in contact with their parents if anything was to happen. If a kid say, Mom, I'm being bullied at school, somebody just hit me, come get me. Or Mom, there's a shooter at school, you know. Or the mom texts me and say, hey son, I just got into, you know, my car, you know, just broke down on the highway. I won't be able to come pick you up. Can you ask your friend Jonathan and his mom to drop you off at home? Or, hey, I just got into a car accident and they're taking me to the hospital or something. You know, things like that. You know, you got to understand that a lot of this stuff that happens, you know, it's not, you know, for a reason. So the thing about it is, people don't understand these things. You can't lock up kids' cell phones because, you know, you're trying to ban phones in the school. I agree, phones in the school with kids should be, you know, censored, and kids shouldn't have cell phones in school. But these cell phones they're only emergencies into school. You know, back then we didn't have cell phones. The only way we could communicate is the principal had to get on the PA. Oh, there's an emergency fire drill. Everybody has to get out of school. You know, now, you know, you can communicate to say there's a fire in my, you got kids, because we didn't have the way, they didn't have cell phones or phones in the classrooms back then. Even teachers didn't have cell phones. Something happened, they had to go over the PA system and say, and by the time you go, because remember, if a shooter gets into a building, he probably get in. There's several entrances to a school. A school has about 3 or 4 entrances to a school. If a shooter gets into a school, he might be on the other side of the school, and the principal might be on this side of the school. By the time it reaches the principal office that the shooter is there, he done probably killed like 3 or 4 people. And the same thing with a school being on fire. If a fire starts in the school, yes, you can pull the fire alarm, but when it reaches the principal's office, half the school might be burned up, because a lot of these high schools are big. So I look at it as if you can't have it to where you banning the phones. You just have to limit it, the usage of the phones. Like, have the kids, they can bring their phones into the school, but they have to leave it into. And a lot of these kids use their phones as calculators, because phones come with calculators. If they're doing math or doing research on a project or something, they use their phones to search up projects and stuff like that. So you can't censor a lot of these. You can't ban phones entirely from the schools. You just have to limit their services, meaning that if I'm in a class where we're not really using cell phones, put it in the cell phone holder. And then, so I want to know what y'all think about this. Do you think that the lady from Carroll City Senior High is wrong for the way she's enforcing the uniform rules? And do you think in Kansas schools, do you think that it's right for them to lock up the kids' cell phones? What do you think about this? Comment here now. And if you're in another schools district that is having banning a lot of things, a lot of kids. If you're in a school district, or if you're in a state, or if you're in a city that has restrictions in public school, and you would like to share it with us, comment at the bottom of this page, because I would like to know what is your schools or your district is banning. And also, do you feel that it's right for them to bully enforce school policies? And do you think that it's right for schools to ban cell phones in classrooms? Because I don't think it's right to ban cell phones in classrooms, because most of these cell phones are used for emergency. I think that they should limit the services of what the kids do with these phones, yes, but I don't think it's right to ban cell phones in schools. And then I don't think it's right to bullying dress codes into schools. So, excuse me, let me know what y'all think about that. Comment at the bottom of this page. Also, email me, roundtable305@yahoo.com, because it is the first week of school for a lot of schools. Broward County started on Monday. Miami-Dade County started Thursday, which was yesterday. A lot of these schools started, this week. So I wanted to get in on y'all, weigh in on what y'all feel about these schools and their policies. So comment at the bottom of this page. Email me, roundtable305@yahoo.com. I am your host, C Money. I thank y'all for watching. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and of course, I will see y'all in the next episode. Take care.